Speaking with Dave Auble, who's going in as a distinguished member of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame this weekend here in Stillwater. Dave, tell me what your thoughts were when they contacted you and said, hey, you're going in the Hall of Fame for wrestling.
Well, I was a little bit stunned. It came as a surprise, and I really hadn't given it a lot of thought for many years. And so it was a great surprise, and I'm just really happy that it happened, of course.
Now, tell me how you got involved in the sport of wrestling. You know, we all have some kind of route into wrestling, and how did you find wrestling?
In Ithaca, we had the Japanese team come to visit to wrestle against an all-star team at Cornell, and for some reason I saw a poster when I was like 8th grade, and it just something that appealed to me. I don't know why, and I made the trek up to Cornell, which I'd never been on their campus, and got on a bus and went to the meet by myself, and really got a charge out of watching Frank Bertucci and Jim LaRock, two of our local national champions, compete, and I was really impressed with how well they did and so on. And I've been involved ever since.
Now, you were a successful high school wrestler in Ithaca, and then made a decision to go to Cornell. I mean, that was right in your hometown. Why Cornell, and how did that work out for you?
Well, actually, a little bit of a long story. I'll try to shorten it up. But I wanted to go to Oklahoma State, and I came out and interviewed with Art Griffith, one of the old coaches. In 1956, he was the coach, and actually I did a little bit of a tryout and with the Oklahoma State champion of that year, and Coach Griffith offered me a scholarship, and I was planning to come out here, and then it turned out that was a coaching change during that year, and Myron Roderick took over, and Myron had never seen me or met me, and he picked the other fellow for the scholarship, and so I was left with going to Cornell or someplace in the East, and
right.
So my high school coach actually talked me into going to Cornell, and I'm happy that he did. It worked out well for me.
Now, Cornell, you were able to win the NCAAs a couple of times, and I know Cornell has some tradition of having great wrestlers, but still with an Ivy League education and the things that go along with that had to have been quite a challenge for you. Why do you think you were able to succeed and excel in wrestling when you were competing at Cornell? What were the keys to your success there?
Well, I had the opportunity to get good coaching. Again, my high school coach was a master coach from all different levels. A fellow by the name of Bill Layton, who was a volunteer coach at the high school and helped with Cornell and Ithaca college wrestlers. And he had coached, as I say, Frank Bertucci and Jimmy LaRock to national titles, and we had a very successful program because of him, and I continued to work under him while I was going to Cornell. That was part of my arrangement, actually.
Right.
And one of the incentives to go to Cornell was that I could stay close to the Ithaca program. And a lot of the time I worked out with the Ithaca High School wrestlers while I was competing at Cornell, and it worked for me.
Now, any memories from your NCAA tournaments? You're an outstanding wrestler and probably had some really challenging matches in order to achieve that.
Well, that tournament obviously is a tremendous effort, and my sophomore year I lost in the first round to the Rocky Mountain champion, and the Laramie altitude just killed me.
Right.
And the guy that won it, Paul Powell, I had beaten during the year, and then again in the Easterns and so on, and I went out of the tournament because the Rocky Mountain champ lost in the next round, and
right.
Those days that's the way it was. And so that's probably one of my memories. And my only loss in college was at that tournament, and so I was more and more determined after that to try to take first, and then had a lucky tournament in Iowa City, I believe, in '59, and pulled out a couple of close matches against some really tough super guys, and then was able to win it. And then again in '60, it was a great event because it was in the East. It was at Maryland and had a good home crowd type of atmosphere.
Right.
And even though I was injured and I didn't want to go, my old coach twisted my arm and made me show up there, and it worked out that I had a good tournament.
Now, what was your incentive to continue in wrestling freestyle? You obviously won a number of years where you were able to compete for the United States and also challenge yourself to make an Olympic team. Was that something that you still had a drive after college that you wanted to continue that?
Yeah, and again, I go back to Frank Bertucci and Jim LaRock. Both had made the Olympic team. Jim was an alternate to Bill Smith, who was an Olympic champion, and Frank Bertucci had won the Olympic trials in '56 and was a real inspiration to me. We actually worked out together and so on, and so I felt like it was a doable goal because people close to our program involved that came out of our program had achieved it. So.
What are your memories from the Olympic Games?
Well, I had some great matches there, and I ran into one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, Yojo Yataki, who was a good friend of mine, and I now. At that time, I ran into him a little bit early in the tournament,
right.
And the guys that he placed ahead of second and third, I had competed with and done well with in the past, and just the luck of the draw. But it was, my goal was to win the Olympics, and so it was a tough thing, and I actually wanted to try out again in the next Olympics, '68. I ended up coaching Don Beam, who ended up in a silver medal. So that was nice that at least I had some connection to that the '68 Olympics.
Now, Yataki's here this weekend, and I saw you guys chatting last night during the induction ceremonies and the unveiling of the plaques. I mean, that must have been fun for you to spend a little time with him, who's also another member of the Hall of Fame and was from not only your era, but from your weight class at the Olympics. A lot of respect between you guys, it seemed like.
Yataki is a tremendous person, and he's been to Ithaca and visited with me and Richie Leonardo, who was one of his teammates at Oklahoma State,
right.
An Ithaca wrestler, and then we stayed, shared a hotel room together in Bulgaria at one of the World Championships, and whenever he's come to the U.S. and we've been in the same area, we've spent time together. We just had a great relationship. It just worked out well for us.
Now, you got into coaching, and you coached UCLA, Campbell University, and obviously in other levels at different times of your life. What was it about coaching that kept you involved in wrestling and kept the fire going? Obviously, coaching is totally different than competing.
I've always been drawn into coaching. Again, I attribute a little bit to quite a bit to my old coach, who was a coach's coach. He turned out a lot of coaches. He inspired people to want to give back to the sport, to try to keep improving their level of knowledge and their coaching technique. And it's always been an interesting, challenging part of the sport for me, and that I've had an early appreciation of. And so at the age of 72, I got drawn back into the sport as a paid coach at my Ithaca College, where one of my ex-wrestlers is the head coach. So I'm just having fun with it, and it's nice to stay, it's sort of a lifetime hobby, I guess you'd have to say.
Well, you actually competed as a veteran and won a world title in freestyle. I mean, was that a fun thing to do, to go out there and wrestle against other people who obviously were adults but not athletes on the senior level?
Well, that was a huge thing for me, to just the camaraderie of mingling with the athletes from different countries that were involved in the master's program. I thought it was a great thing, and it really inspired me to kind of step up my activity in terms of training and just kind of having fun with it. And so I did it until I was probably 60 years old. And I still have the impulse. I'd still like to do it.
So do you still in practice when you're up at the college, roll around with the kids? And
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little careful though, because it's getting to that phase where
Right.
it's easy to get injured. But so far I've been lucky.
Now, anything this weekend that kind of strikes you about being part of the Hall of Fame experience?
Well, I've been very impressed by the organization of the events and the nice atmosphere. It's just been a great, friendly, kind of laid-back atmosphere, but still well organized. And it's been a great opportunity for me to introduce my children. My 3 children are here, 3 of the 4, and give them a chance to meet some of the folks that I was involved with before some of them were born.
Right.
So it's helping me connect with them with my past, and that's been fun.
Well, congratulations, Dave. Well-deserved honor, and member of the Hall of Fame. That's something that's going to go on forever.
Well, Gary, thank you. I appreciate it.